Well, congratulations, troops. If you survived yesterday, you survived the largest liquidation event to ever take place in the cryptocurrency space, more than FTX and more than Luna. And I think that explains why we saw the price action that we did across the board for the cryptocurrency market. I have to admit, I just got home, I had loads of alerts going off and many phone calls, as you can imagine. And initially thought, hang on, how can some altcoins be down 50%? But that indeed was the case. And I think it has everything to do with a cascade of liquidations that took place on the back end of some bad sort of tariff news, which we're going to start the video off on. The stock market started to sell off. Crypto as a beta of that sold off, likely ran into a lot of liquidations and then just caused a cascade. And I think that perfectly summarizes what took place yesterday. Now, we will put this in the perspective of the charts, because to look at Bitcoin, for example, it really doesn't change any of our plans and trajectories for Bitcoin, or even the total cryptocurrency market, which had quite a lot wiped off. This is still actually in a technical uptrend. I think, personally, it's very interestingly the timely nature of all this, certainly given the fact that institutions are about to get on board, that this has happened. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is manipulation at play here, but I can't prove any of that, so it's not really worth focusing on this being a manipulated flush out to essentially get retail out. If you don't use leverage, you don't go out. We're one of the only channels when it comes to crypto that not only doesn't promote and have referral links to exchanges that let you use leverage, but actually goes zealously against it and says that retail should not touch leverage, and that if you do and you get liquidated, it's your own fault and you're a ding-dong. And yesterday there was nearly $20 billion worth of ding-dongs getting liquidated. And I'm not going to say they deserve it, because I think it's a little bit raw, the whole thing, for many people. In fact, I know and I'm friends with people that have large communities that got wiped out yesterday. We don't do that here at Allincrypto. We say that by investing, you're going to make your money. My entire group is A-OK. In fact, when it started to sell off, we jumped on a meeting, talked it all through. And I think, to put things into context, the cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin today is where it was a week ago, given the largest liquidation event in history. I think you can get some bullish derivatives out of this, not just bearish ones. The one bearish take that I would give in regards to altcoins is, if you think about people putting hundreds of millions of dollars, or big hedge funds and people like this, are they really going to allocate that money to something like, I'm going to pick on one of my favorite coins here, Hedera, or even XRP and some of these others, given the fact that it can sell off like it did in a matter of an hour? They have regulations and rules to follow, protocols to follow. I think yesterday is going to put some altcoins too far out of the reach, at least for now, of some major money out there, because it's just a safety thing at the end of the day. So what I want to do with you guys is assess the situation. I want to start off probably with what caused it. And this is what dropped yesterday. This is from the White House. And the quote from the White House says, "It is important to believe that China would have taken such, or impossible to believe that China would have taken such an action, but they have, and the rest is history. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump." And this didn't just start with this tweet yesterday, or this post yesterday on Truth Social from the president. It started really with this one. This was earlier that day. And it says, "Some very strange things are happening in China. They are becoming very hostile and sending letters to countries throughout the world that they want to impose export controls on each and every element of production having to do with rare earths and virtually anything else they can think of. Even if it's not manufactured in China, nobody has ever seen anything like this, but essentially it would clog the market and make life difficult for virtually every country in the world, especially for China. We have been contacted by other countries who are extremely angry at this great trade hostility." I'm bullish on Trump's America, but it's kind of, how can you call other people hostile on trade when the tariff war has been waged by America? Anyway, which came out of nowhere. I mean, what? Our relationship, it's kind of gaslighting, I've got to admit. Our relationship with China over the past 6 months has been a very good one, thereby making this move on trade an even more surprising one. I have always felt that they've been lying in wait, and now, as usual, I have been proven right. There is no way that China should be allowed to hold the world captive, but that seems to have been their plan for quite some time, starting with the magnets and other elements that they have quietly amassed in somewhat of a monopoly position. A rather sinister and hostile move, to say the least. America is kind of the pot calling the kettle black at this point, in my honest opinion. I'm going to say that. It says, but the US has a monopoly position also, much stronger and far more reaching than China's. I have just chosen to use them. There was never a reason, or I've not chosen to use them, there was never a reason to do so until now. Wow. The letter they sent is many pages long and details with great specificity. For some reason I can't say it. It's been a long night, guys. Each and every element that they want to withhold from other nations, things that were routine are no longer routine at all. I have not spoken to President Xi because there was no reason to do so. This was a real surprise, not only to me, but to all the leaders of the free world. I was to meet President Xi in 2 weeks at APEC in South Korea, but now there seems to be no reason to do so. The Chinese letters were especially inappropriate in that this was the day that, after 3,000 years of bedlam and fighting, there is peace in the Middle East. Interesting, getting thrown in there. I wonder if that timing was coincidental. Wow, big accusations there, or at least suggestions. Dependent on what China says about the hostile order that they have just put out, I will be forced, as President of the United States, to financially counter their move. For every element that they have been able to monopolize, we have too. I never thought it would come to this, but wow. This came out earlier yesterday, and then this came out from the White House themselves. It says, and the market sold off post this. Crypto cascaded after this. It says, it has just been learnt that China has taken extraordinarily aggressive positions on trade in sending an extremely hostile letter to the world, stating that they were going to, effective from November the 1st, 2025, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exemption, and was obviously a plan devised by them years ago. It is absolutely unheard of internal trade. It's absolutely unheard of in internal trade and a moral disgrace in dealing with other nations. Based on the fact that China has taken this unprecedented position and speaking only for the US and not other nations who are similarly threatened, starting on November the 1st, 2025 or sooner, depending on any further action or changes taken by China, the United States of America will impose tariffs of 100%, here we go again, on China, over and above any tariffs they are currently paying. Also on November the 1st, we will impose export controls on any and all critical software. Wow. It is impossible to believe that China would have taken such an action, but they have. And the rest is history. Thank you for your attention on this matter. So naturally, I mean, me just reading that, some of you be going, oh, wow, did that really happen? But it did. Naturally, the markets started to sell off as a result of this. The traditional markets, and crypto is a beta of those markets that happens to have a lot of leverage in it. Yesterday, what we saw was a major unwind of that leverage. On the back end of, I feel like we're somewhat desensitized to news like this. We always get bold news from Trump. The markets always react and then recover. I think this one will be the same, but there's obviously a lot of uncertainty around what he's posting there. And I think, why is the president of the United States posting that? Because it's almost policy in itself, or it's almost an action in itself to China. It's sending a message that, you know, we know what you're doing and here's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it publicly so that the ball's now in our court. But the traditional market sold off, as you would expect. This is the S&P, which, by the way, everything that we've said about the S&P and believing that it is still, just like it has done every single time in a bull market after recovering a 20% pullback, we still believe that's the case. This hasn't changed anything. I mean, look at this in perspective. This is why we use weekly charts, and this is why we're investors. We don't care about small-term timeframes for crypto. We care about the broader trajectory. And it's still broadly intact for the crypto space and certainly the broader markets. But they did sell off. The S&P sold off to the tune of 2.7%. It's had days like that frequently previously. Is this just another one of those or the start of something greater? Well, I guess there's questions around how all this unfolds. Something like Amazon, got hit kind of hard. I did look at these and say, these kind of look a bit double toppy. Nvidia obviously doesn't. Even Tesla. These sold off. Tesla 5%. MicroStrategy. I mean, our miners have been doing really, really well. The NASDAQ. And as crypto is really a beta, if we keep the US 100 on, in fact, we'll do the TQQQ, which is the ProShares leveraged NASDAQ. Is that right? Yes. And we'll put on BTC. You can see that these dance to the same tune. So naturally with this, and the kind of pullback that we saw the cryptocurrency space start to sell off. And you've essentially just ran into, if we go to crypto now, Bitcoin I think was nearly down 11% yesterday in the day, perhaps. With that, what you've done is you've essentially just run into a whole load. Yeah, so Bitcoin in one day was down 13%. By the way, we've had days like this previously in our recent history. And Bitcoin today is where it was 2 weeks ago and for the whole of last month. So it's not the end of the world. To put that into perspective, the broader trajectory is still an upward one. But I think you've had those things happen. You've had pressure, of course, on the stock market due to the uncertainty and people sort of hedging. Crypto's obviously done the same thing. And essentially what it's done is ran into liquidations. And we know that because $19.37 billion, so $19 billion, nearly $19.5 billion were wiped off of the crypto space. This is the largest ever liquidation event that's ever taken place in crypto. More than FTX, more than Luna, more than all your blow-ups. Somebody big has got hit here. And it's sad. I have a list that effectively has on it not just the names of these influencers that promote leverage trading, but how much money they've made off of it from the exchanges. That in times like this, I really should drop. But I'm never the kind of guy to go and ruin somebody's meal, But I honestly think that people promoting leverage trading, first of all, if they're going to do that, they should be able to prove they can do that successfully themselves. I've not found one that can show you a P&L over time showing you that they've successfully leverage traded. Show it. Prove it. Well, I do have a list, actually, of influencers that have referral links to certain exchanges, and I can see just how much money they've generated from those exchanges. And exchanges make a hell of a lot of money during liquidation events. We don't shield... In fact, we not only don't say people should leverage trade, we strongly recommend that they don't. We don't give financial advice here, but here is some financial advice. Don't leverage trade crypto. And the people that are promoting you to do so... First of all, none of them have proved they can do it themselves. Ask them for an overtime P&L. You will not get one. I've not found one yet. And second of all, you shouldn't be doing this because of events like this. There was $20 billion taken yesterday. Now, there would have been some big players, I'm sure, baked into this that would have probably caused this cascade. But when you look at the total market cap, you can really see it. This is the cascade through the lens of the total market. If we go to the daily. This is just liquidation, and then people start to buy up the discounts. Now, whether this is timely in regards to what institutions are about to do and looking to facilitate, you look at some altcoins. Look at one of my favorite, HBAR, sold off by 50% yesterday. More than that, nearly 60. The problem with how altcoins have acted is the question, I still think the broader macro is actually not that bad, but the question then becomes... And we had an event like this just before the main bull run of 2021 kicked off. And of course, that was the shutdowns. But the question then becomes, how can you get big money into an asset that can sell off 60% in an hour due to the over-leveraged nature of it? I mean, Ethereum wasn't too bad. It's really where it was back on the 25th of September. I think... In my opinion, it's never been such a bad time to enter the markets post a volatile event or a leveraged sort of flush out. There are still questions that need to be answered. On Sunday, I'm going to go through my Patrons and look at the sort of structure and everything that we have in place and see if all that is still intact. For now, it is. But the question, I think, on everybody's mind, we've looked at what's happened. You've got sort of geopolitical tensions or an incident, as it were. That's caused the stock market to sell off, which has caused crypto to sell off, which has just ran into this pocket of liquidations. The most ever in history. You survived that. So there's good news there. It's never been a bad time to enter post liquidations like this. The question that one has to ask, and I don't have all the answers for, is where do we go from here? I still think what we're looking at is on track and that crypto has a great time ahead of it, and events like this do occur. They're rare, but they happen. And that we should keep calm and carry on. The geopolitical situation still needs resolving, clearly. And what's the damage, I think, more reputationally to crypto, certainly with the altcoin sector? How can big money look at it and essentially say, okay, we're going to park it here, certainly in your altcoin sector? I don't think big money, big hedge funds can buy an asset that can sell off 60% in an hour. That's my real concerns. So there's a clear maturity that needs to take place for the space. With that, there's an opportunity. Guys, we just wanted to report on it. We don't have all the answers for now. We'll be keeping you up to date. It is great to be in a group when things like this happen. Certainly a group that doesn't promote leverage trading, and that, you know, we're doing very well from an investment point of view. Even with the events that happened yesterday, we're still up, of course. Certainly our stock portfolio has been killing it recently. Please don't leverage trade. Please, please, please. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. I think that is effectively what has happened. You've just seen the most liquidations in history for crypto, caused by bad news. Just one of those events. It's not a freak event. It's sort of symbiotic with the crypto space, which is a beta for the traditional markets. But I do think we'll recover from this. We've already started. I think it continues. Let's see. Monday morning, everybody's going to be watching. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. I'll see you all in tomorrow's daily market update for some more information.